Hey everyone, it's Charlie from Daily Motor, and today we've got this beastly 2020 Chevrolet Silverado 2500 HD Duramax LTZ. I don't know how many different words you could throw on there. If you really wanted, you could tack in Z71, full cab, standard bed, it's all there. This thing is an absolute monster. We're dealing with a 6.6 liter Duramax diesel engine tacked up to a 10-speed Allison transmission. Now, I gotta be honest with you guys, driving this thing around, I didn't realize this Allison transmission was a 10-speed at first, but it is so smooth. It's incredible just driving around, daily type of driving. I mean, this isn't a daily driver sort of vehicle, but it's amazing how well this Duramax and Allison transmission does at, well, how they do together, sorry, the pairing, how well the pairing does at just doing daily driving. They're so smooth. Each shift is just effortless. Now, this review isn't going to have any sort of trailering, any sort of tests that are actually going to push this truck to anything near its limits. I mean, I think this configuration probably has about a 36,000 pound tow rating. We also don't get too many HD trucks here at Daily Motor, and we just don't have the familiarity with the different competitors to really give you a subjective and educated comparison or commentary or anything about this truck. So this is just going to be a fairly observational, objective review on the truck. We're going to go through, take a look at all its cool features, get it out on the road, drive it around a bit, comment on the way it drives, maybe compared to some other trucks that we spent time in, especially when comparing the cabs. But let's just jump right into it here. So this is the LTZ model, which is just one rung below the highest high country. It's got an automatically dropping tailgate here. It's not actually powered. It just, oh shit, it is powered. Wow, that's super cool. I didn't realize it goes both ways. So we can use the key here. Goes both ways. Do what we need to do. We can use this bed step here. Hop up on in. Do our business. Got this nice bed liner in here. Got a bunch of good connection ports. Got trailer stuff in there. And then you've got an actual house outlet right there. And then when you're done, double tap the key. Oh, maybe? Okay, so it won't lift itself up from the key, but you can tap the button and then it'll lift itself from there. So only time will tell how long that'll last, but for now, it's cool. You also got a step up here for getting into the front of the box. Let's unlock it. Coming into the back seat. Plenty of room in this full crew cab model. Got some nice sort of fake wood grain, smooth accents here with some good leather and some other hard plastics. Now, I'm not usually a huge stickler on hard plastics in vehicles, especially if they're in places that you don't really touch often. The only place that materials are kind of bothering me in this 2500 Silverado is the door handles. It's got sort of a two material door handle configuration here, both plastic. And there's a kind of a sharp edge right here as you grab. And it just doesn't feel good. The way I see it is any material that you're going to touch regularly in a vehicle should feel good, solid, and premium. And this doesn't, unfortunately. It's solid, but the two plastic bits that you have to touch, there's a very coarse, sharp feeling right here. Doesn't feel great. Anyway, flip the seats up. You got some under-seat storage back here. Come on back. These headrests, they flip down for added visibility. Got center cup holders. Back here you've got heated seats, 3-stage, as well as USB-A, USB-C, and a 12-volt outlet. Plenty of legroom, no big surprise there. And lastly, this is kind of cool, you got some in-seat storage right here. And it's padded as well. It's one thing this truck's done really nicely, is every storage compartment is padded on the bottom. Definitely appreciating that. Up to the front. Not a huge fan of this light kind of grayish color. Almost tan, but not quite grayish tan. I'd rather just have black. But I do like this brown coloring up here. Got a nice running board. Very solid thunk to that door. Just looking around the cabin here, it's definitely a pretty nice place to be. Maybe not quite as luxurious as the new HD Rams, but about on par with the Ford. Got some chromes as well as some smooth plastics. Kind of more of a satiny finish here. Got USB AC and 12 volt here as well, on top of a house outlet here. Plenty of different controls, climate controls, which are nice to see all physical buttons rather than buried away in the infotainment screen. Got wireless phone charging here, which does charge very quickly. Been using that. As I said earlier, all of this is padded, which is super nice to see, as well as down in here. It's a grippy, padded material, so things aren't sliding around and making a bunch of noise. We've also got some storage down in there. Storage in the doors, obviously. Two-stage glove box configuration. You got one up top, although it is not padded. So one storage place I found that isn't. Kind of frustrating. So things are going to rattle. And then second glove box down there. Padded little compartment here. Cup holders. And a big center storage compartment here with another USB-A, USB-C, and a 3.5mm auxiliary jack for music, stereo jack. Padded down here. All good stuff. So before we actually start the truck up, I want to comment on Chevy's infotainment system. Now, it's always been good, and by always, I mean over the last 5 or 6 years or so, since they've had the MyLink and Apple CarPlay, Android Auto support, everything like that, and their navigation. But it's gotten so good recently, and I just want to applaud Chevy for doing such a great job with it. Look at how quick these response times are. It's like immediate, with my finger touch. Good refresh rate, good resolution. Tap on audio, we're at audio. Tap on phone, we're at phone. Tap on maps, we're at maps. It takes a quick second to load up, but the car's not running, and I just turned the system on, so it's kind of booting up and everything. Look how smooth this map is. The resolution's great, the graphics are great, very responsive to the way I touch. As I zoom in, the map kind of flattens out, and then as I zoom out, the map sort of tilts itself in the other direction. Very easy to use, very smart, intuitive system. I really appreciate that. You do have some climate controls here as well, if you wanted to do those from the infotainment system. I don't exactly know why you would when you've got perfectly good buttons, dual zone right here, but it is there. All right, let's fire this bad boy up. Got a 4,600 RPM red line. Diesels don't rev very high. The gauge cluster has a lot of information as well, and it's pretty easy to use. You've got your 4 directional buttons here. You've got your standard speedometer digitally. Oh, this is your home. So this one doesn't adjust. You go right here, and then you have all your different information. You've got some off-road pages here with tilt degrees and which drive mode you're in. Diesel exhaust fluid level. Digital speed with speed limit. Trip meter 1, trip 2. Fuel range. Oil life. Tire pressures. Air filter life. Brake pad life. Fuel economy. And fuel filter life. I will say, I've been getting surprisingly good fuel economy with this truck. In just normal driving without filming or doing any 0 to 60s or anything like that, I was getting 17 to 18 miles to the gallon. And, I mean, this thing's huge, so it's definitely pretty good for what you're getting. I mean, being a diesel helps, that's for sure. On the steering wheel, you've got heat, cruise control, no adaptive cruise control in this truck, even though it's about $75,000. And then you've got audio and track buttons hidden behind here where I like them. Over here you've got some lighting controls as well as your four-wheel drive adjustments, auto for high and for low, and some trailer mode stuff. Last thing I want to show you here while we're static. This is one of the coolest features of this truck. I've really liked it just for daily driving, and I can see how it'd have tons of applications. It's got a very, very robust camera system. So we start here and we've got kind of a 360 view. If I throw it in reverse, you can see the truck moving backward. And this is just awesome for fitting this thing into parking spots because it's huge. And when you look out at the grill there, or the hood, you've got absolutely no idea where you are respectively to a line or anything like that. So, and same thing looking out backward. You just, the camera goes so far in helping you get into a spot. Like the other night, I was going to the grocery store and I was coming into a parking spot, so I switched. Why is this backward? It should be, there we go. Oh, it is forward. Okay. So I had this 360 as well as this one right here. I could just make sure I was pulling just right there. Now to double check, on my back, I can go like that. And then I can even go right there and get an aerial just in the back to see I need to pull forward a little bit more. I think that's the one I want right now. Then I would just go ever so slightly forward, boop, over the line. Good, throw it in the park. Some other angles you have. This one you saw I clicked on real quick. Kind of shows the truck transposed in the real world situation based on the cameras. So if I were backing, kind of shows the truck relative to other things around me. It's pretty cool. You've also got this one which shows your wheels. So this is showing one rear wheel and that's showing the other rear wheel. If I wanted to get right up to a curb, and if I go into drive, it shows the front wheels. You can see them turning right there. Get right up to a curb. Then you have, what's this one? Oh, that kind of brings a full screen display, gets rid of the 360 element. And then over here, you can see a camera for what's in your bed. If you want to make sure things were secured back there, just take a look at your tailgaters or something. And you can click here and have a top-down view zoomed right in onto where your ball hitch is going to go for hitching up a trailer. Very awesome, intuitive, easy-to-use camera system from Chevy. Lastly, you guys probably want to see this mirror. So if you haven't seen this before, it's something that GM has come out with on a lot of their vehicles. It is an option. You can just drive around normally, normal rear view mirror, no surprises. But if you'd rather have a little extra visibility, you can flip the switch, and bada bing, it's a camera. So you see, driving around this lot here, it's an actual camera out the back. It's very high resolution, very high refresh rate, and substitutes as a mirror with much better visibility. Not only that, but you have some fine-tuning adjustments you can make to it. Press there. You've got brightness. Few levels. Where do we want here? I know there's a toggle. There we go. You can go zoom in or out. I think you'd want it all the way out typically, but if for some reason you wanted it zoomed in a bit, you can do that. And then you can also adjust the angle. So you got kind of a high up angle, low down, especially if you were towing and you needed to see it up around a trailer, or if you had a lot of payload and the truck were sagging in a certain way. Pretty cool. I'm actually not a huge fan of it, mostly because I find as I'm driving along, when I peek up at the mirror, my eyes have to focus differently on the camera. And so there's like a quick second of my eyes refocusing on the camera, and then when I come back to the road, my eyes have to focus in a different way for driving. Whereas if I'm in that mode, my eyes kind of stay in the same focus. So it's really personal preference, and it's pretty subtle. This sort of vehicle, it's definitely useful to have, but not a necessity. However, they've also got the same mirror in the Corvette C8, and in that one you pretty much have to have it on the camera mode because there's barely any rear visibility. So we'll just go for a quick drive here, let you get a listen for the truck, talk about a few of the driving dynamics, and we'll wrap it up. I love that quintessential diesel sound. Just tough and stout and familiar. Sounds good. Now, this isn't a surprise for anyone who's familiar with driving heavy-duty trucks, but you just sit so darn high in this thing. You feel like you can just lumber over everyone else on the road. And I know that this thing isn't being nearly taxed, even remotely close to its limit, just driving around unladen like this. But it's nice that the powertrain is just so smooth for this kind of driving. The steering is kind of perfectly weighted. It's not too heavy, but also not too light. So it doesn't feel like too super easy and wandering. It's 57 miles per hour, and we're getting 23 miles to the gallon. Pretty good for something this large, I think. Like I said, just really don't have much reference when it comes to trucks of this caliber. But it is a data point. Now, sometimes driving trucks around is endearing, like the Toyota TRD Pro that we had a while back. That was like a fun truck to drive around, and like despite pouring a bunch of money into gas, it was cool, it was fun, it was something that, like, yeah, I could see owning this. Something like this heavy-duty truck, there's no enjoyment to driving a truck like this. It's really a chore. Typically, you should only really be driving a truck like this if you need it regularly for work, if you do a lot of heavy-duty towing. I mean, if you really are just a masochist and have to have that big, tough truck image, then I guess you do you, but that's not what these trucks are for. And I mean, it's like I said, it's a novelty driving it around a bit, but I will be ready to have something a little bit more nimble and made for the roads. So let's do a few different launches here. We'll do one just straight auto everything, well, two-wheel drive, traction control on, and just no brake torque, hit the gas. Drank a bunch of fuel. And we'll do one more of those in four-wheel drive high with a brake torque. Nothing super eventful. It gets up and goes. I mean, it is fairly quick for the size of this thing, I will say that. Not only that, but just driving it around, I mean, there's so much torque. I'm pretty sure this one's making something like 910 pound-feet of torque. And it just comes on so easily and effortlessly. I mean, just pulling away from stoplights and stuff. You would not imagine this thing's as heavy as it is by the way that the powertrain handles it. 70 miles per hour here. It's decently isolated, but you hear a mixture of engine, wind, and tire noise all together. None of these three are egregious, but just kind of all there. It has a lane departure warning using vibrators in the seat. So if I sort of come on over the line here, I get a little vibration on my left thigh. If I come this way, a little vibration on my right thigh. It's kind of a nice way to warn you that you're coming out of your lane without being too obtrusive. There's no active part of it in the wheel steering you back, but a lot of people like not having their passengers know that they're drifting. Another thing I should talk about is the head-up display. Chevy does a really great job at their head-up displays. They've been doing them for a long time, and they're only getting better. And they're also really easy to adjust. You don't have to go into any sort of display menus or gauge menus or anything. There's 3 buttons right there. One adjusts the height, one adjusts the brightness, and the other adjusts the content. So you can get some driver monitor stuff there, navigation, off-road settings or stats, and then just kind of a basic digital speed with speed limit right there. Let's toss it around this roundabout. I don't know what that is making noise in the back there. And we go kind of hard on the cars here in the reviews just so you can kind of get an idea of how they sound. It's a little more exciting and stuff, but when we're typically driving these cars around, like when I'm driving these daily, it's just easy. Just putzing around on them, no point wasting a bunch of gas. I mean, if it's a muscle car or something like that, something sporty, yeah, I'm getting on it here and there, sounding and listening to it and everything, but in general, we don't drive the same way daily as we do in these videos. You got blind spot monitoring as well in this truck, which is good because it's huge. So it's good to be able to see when people are chilling in your blind spot. One thing I forgot to mention, the seats in this truck are not particularly comfortable. They're very stiff and firm, and they're very flat. So not much contour to your body. There is lumbar adjustment, so that's good, as well as front and back height adjustment for the seat bottom and standard reclining. But just worth noting that the seats are not very comfortable. Although I haven't spent like a long highway drive or something like that, so someone who's spent more time in these seats might be able to attest to that. All right. Like I said, no real final verdict on this truck for me. I'm just really not the intended market, intended buyer. We're not too familiar with these sort of vehicles here at Daily Motor, but hope you guys were able to get a good idea and a good, just kind of entertaining check out of this truck. If you liked the video, definitely be sure to check out our other reviews. Hit that subscribe button, it helps us out a bunch, and check out future videos. I'm Charlie from Daily Motor. We'll see you on the next one. Drive on.